Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the Philippines and the European Union enter a new era of bilateral ties from trade, climate change, digital economy, and maritime security. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen joins us on The Source exclusive. And the government designates Representative Arnie Teves and 12 others as terrorists. Let's begin with breaking news here on CNN Philippines. The Anti-Terrorism Council has designated suspended Negros Oriental 3rd District Representative Arnie Teves as a terrorist and leader of the alleged Teves terrorist group. The council also designated his brother, former Negros Oriental Governor Pride Henry Teves, and 11 other members of the alleged armed group as terrorists. The council said the so-called Teves terrorist group has been involved in many violent incidents in Negros Oriental, including the killing of Governor Roel Degamo and 9 others in March. The ATC said their designation was based on compelling evidence and factual incidents. The Teves brothers have denied involvement in the killings. Again, if you're just tuning in, breaking news here on CNN Philippines. The Anti-Terrorism Council has designated suspended Negros Oriental 3rd District Representative Arnie Teves and 12 others as terrorists. We are trying to get a reaction from the camp of the Teveses. We will continue to try to reach out to them. In the meantime, back to our top story. The Philippines and the European Union are seeing a fresh momentum in warm relations. Many opportunities are shaping up from both sides, but there are also challenges ahead, such as pressing issues of regional security and human rights. Amid the shifting geopolitical landscape, the European Commission President is on a historic visit to the country to further strengthen ties. We spoke with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and she tells us the significance of the visit to Philippine-EU relations.
The Philippines are a very like-minded country, founding member, for example, of the United Nations, of ASEAN, of the WTO, and they have a vibrant economy. But there is a lot of untapped potential between the European Union and the Philippines, and therefore many good reasons to come here. We share the same priorities, for example, in fighting climate change. We share the same values, for example, upholding the UN Charter and the international law, so many good reasons to be here.
You met with President Bongbong Marcos in Malacanang. Tell us more about that meeting. What was it like?
It was an excellent meeting. So we went through all the different topics, and we agreed to have together the negotiations on a free trade agreement. So it's high time to do that. We asked our staff to work intensively, and this is good news for both sides.
It's very good news because, as you mentioned, it's time to relaunch the free trade agreement. And I guess the question is, how soon can this happen? Is there a specific timeline that you're looking into?
So as soon as possible is basically the message. There are a lot of benefits waiting to be pushed forward. So a free trade agreement is always very important, as it says, for trade, but it's good for people, it's good for the work cross-border, it's good for businesses. It opens doors for innovators, so many good reasons to have a free trade agreement.
So just looking back, just a little bit of context here, negotiations for the EU-Philippine trade agreement started back in 2015, and this next round happened sometime in 2017. What obstacles or challenges do you think we might be facing in the resumption of the talks?
Well, I think, first of all, now on both sides there's a strong political will. This is very good. My experience tells me that in any kind of free trade agreement negotiations, an obstacle is always the alignment of standards. We have high environmental and labor standards, for example, And their negotiations have to go on because it is access for Filipino business to the European single market, and of course for European companies access to the Philippine market. So it's important that we align the standards and have good negotiations there.
When we talk about free trade, definitely this will benefit both the Philippines and the EU. But again, as you mentioned, it will resume hopefully as soon as possible. I'd just like to jump into the next topic, which is the GSP plus status. It's set to expire by the end of the year. This is 2023, but the European Commission filed a resolution extending this to another 4 years. Can you just give us a little bit of update on this? What is the progress on this?
Yes, so we evaluated the situation and we found that we can extend the status quo. That is good news. But as you said, till 2027. But what we of course hope and we want to have is, in the meantime, the free trade agreement concluded. That's very important. So this is a bridge now that we are building with the GSP Plus till 2027, but the aim is to have the free trade agreement.
That's the aim, that's the priority. Let's talk about, though, that in the past, the GSP status was somehow threatened during the Duterte administration over the war on drugs and alleged human rights violations. Is this still a major concern?
Well, the government now is much more cooperating with the United Nations and other international organizations. This is very important. And therefore, we see progress. We have also with the European Union an ongoing constant human rights dialogue where we raise all the specific questions that have to be raised. And here too we see progress, and this made the difference with the new government.
I see. Human rights, as you mentioned, remains a top priority for the EU. How would you assess the human rights situation under the Marcos administration?
Well, as I said, there is much improvement. Still topics that we have to discuss, issues that are important, that are raised in the constant dialogue that we have with the Philippines. But the environment is much better, and this is important for us, that there's improvement and steps forward.
All right. Just climate change support, something that needs to be addressed. You know, over 100 municipalities and cities are now under a state of calamity here in the Philippines because of the ongoing typhoon and the enhancement of the southwest monsoon. In what capacity, I guess, can the EU further help in trying to mitigate the impact of climate change?
Yes, we have a whole green package we agreed on. First of all, very important, access to our satellites, Copernicus, so that data from Copernicus, our satellites, come in real time and are being stored and processed in the Philippine Space Agency. That gives you access to very important data for having early warning, for example, improving the disaster awareness situation. So working on all the effects of climate change, but it also gives valuable information on volcano activity, for example. Many good topics in this space data. And then strong work together, of course, on renewable energy. This is so important not only for the climate, but also for the independence of energy generation here in the Philippines. And fight plastic pollution, one of the major topics in the Philippines. So moving towards a circular economy in the Philippines with our support, because it's in our common interest.
Digitalization, also quickly, I'd like to discuss that.
Digitalization, I mean, the Philippines are on the best way to become a digital powerhouse, a hub. This is very interesting. Here we work together on the deployment of 5G. On cybersecurity, very important topic, and on all the digital topics where we can have a cooperation that is ongoing. For example, we have a submarine cable for data connection, and we plan on improving the data connection from the European Union to the Philippines, which opens then the door for a lot of common business.
All right. Just maybe investments in terms of the digital economy. Is there a number that we're possibly looking at?
Yes. So there are several millions that will be invested. The figure that we've discussed today is the green package. There it's up to €500 million of investment. But there will also be a lot of investment, not only public funding, but also very important de-risking for private investors in the digital package.
Security cooperation. Here, you said that the geopolitical landscape is changing, volatile, and more threatening. How concerning is the situation in the South China Sea, more particularly the West Philippine Sea?
Yes, so for us, as for the Philippines, it's very important that we maintain the status quo and the balance in the status quo. So the European Union is very much supporting a free and open Indo-Pacific, and therefore we agreed on a security cooperation, be it threat awareness, be it the cooperation with the coastal guards, for example. Lots of topics that are of importance. You know, the general principle of the United Nations, which is sovereignty and territorial integrity, is as important for the European Union as it is for the Philippines, as important in Ukraine as it is in the Indo-Pacific.
You mentioned Ukraine. Maybe as a last question, how important is it that the world take a more solid stand on the issue of Russia and Ukraine?
It is of utmost importance because it is about the respect for the UN Charter and the respect for the international law. So our rules-based order depends on it. And therefore, I very much commend the Philippines that they supported the condemnation of Russia's war of aggression, together with 140 countries in the United Nations. And we're very grateful for the strong support that the Philippines show for Ukraine.
Last question. Looking forward, how do you see EU-Philippine relations in the near future?
So there have been always strong historical friendship ties, economic ties, and I'm very positive that this will increase, and I'm very much looking forward for an excellent cooperation with the Philippines and the European Union.
We welcome you to the Philippines. Thank you for the visit, and thank you for the interview, Madam President, here at Raffles Makati.
And we will be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned.